everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner-operator of Expertly Dyed Art by Science, and in this quick tutorial tip video I wanted to show you how you could take hand-carded batt like this and turn it into something dyed, kind of like you would find as dyed top, because I kept getting a lot of questions about whether you could dye it in this form, and well, also if so, what would it look like? Because normally what you would do is you would dye the fleece individually, and then when you're standing at your drum carder, you would card it all together to come up with whatever colors you wanted. But that's a lot of extra steps, and for some people, they don't really have that kind of time. So if you can do everything all at once, then that would be really convenient. And the question then remains, can you? Okay, so let's say you've got some fleece and you want to dye it different colors, which is something that I've done here with this merino. Now, one of the things about this that's nice is you can get some really interesting gradients because of the mixing of colors like this, kind of like purplish red blending in with the green here. Now some of this is on the same block, so if you were to spin it just as it is, you get a lot of color gradations that you can kind of see here in this example. Right? So there's that, but what if you want to have more control over the way that it looks, or maybe you don't have a really beautiful, super duper clean fleece already, and dyeing it in the lock just isn't feasible. Well, what you can do is, as I've kind of already hinted at, is you take a carded batt. So this is the same fleece actually that I carded like mad before I had to put everything into storage in order to come to the UK for my master's degree 5 years ago, and turns out everything is just fine because I stored it according to the method that I posted in another video, so I don't have to worry about it, and 5 years later it's almost like I never left. So yeah, let's say you had a fleece that was not completely clean, or maybe there was like some stuff that you wanted to work out with it. Maybe you wanted to combine the really soft bits with the not as soft bits so that you had a more consistent product. And so once you get it into this state, how do you dye it? Well, you can just lay this flat, right, on your surface that you want to dye onto. I usually use some recyclable plastic. I know, there's just not a lot of great options for dyeing hand-painted stuff, but working on it. And then you just lay it on the wrap, dye it however you want. You can do like stripes, you can sprinkle some dye on there if it's wet, and then steam it so you'll get kind of like a splotchy effect. And then wrap it all up, steam it for at least 30 minutes with the fixative, citric acid or vinegar already on the wool itself. And then when you undo it, it'll pretty much just look like normally dyed top. It'll just be really, really wide. Or alternatively, what you can do, and I don't know if I did this in a previous video where I talked about how to spin batts. So oftentimes you can just take a strip off by sticking your fingers through here and then pulling it all the way off. But if you actually just zigzag taking off one end like this, and then when you get to the bottom, if you stop, flip it over, and then go in a little bit further and split off this way, yeah, like that. Sorry, we're so intimate. I've got this giant loom set up in the room and nothing else is suitable for filming behind that you could see and not be distracted by the things. But yeah, you would end up getting what is essentially like a combed silver, a combed silver, which is basically all different lengths of the fibers kind of intermingling with themselves. And it's not true worsted in the sense that it's not 100% perfect alignment parallel, so it's not quite a comb top. But you can dye it like a comb top if you pull the batt open like this, and then actually if you wanted to do more effects, sometimes what I like to do is if you do a crochet chain that's pretty loose, like this, then so if you see that little bit here, if you do a crochet chain like this and then dye it, you'll actually get, in some of those spots where the fiber is more compressed, you'll get a little bit of a resist technique. So that can also be really useful. And then when you're all done, you wash it, you dry it, take it apart, and then if you want to, you can coil it or leave it as a braid. However you want to store it is fine. But when you spin it, you can actually spin it just like it's combed top, and you'll have the gradations of color changes just like you would get in commercially combed top that's been dyed. But in this case, you can actually really customize your blend. So if you liked alpaca and Ryland, unless you had access to a mill that would do that for you, you're pretty limited in your options. So you'd have to buy them separately, combine them, maybe if they're dyed or not dyed. It just creates a lot of potential then for you to decide how you want your fibers to look. Now, one caveat is be careful about what you use whenever you're making your batts before dyeing, because like sari silk, which is a super popular add-in ingredient, it may bleed onto whatever fiber you're using. So I would highly recommend doing a color fast check first before you do anything like that, just in case it produces an undesirable effect. Or things like angelina. So there's heat bondable and non-heat bondable, and the one that is heat bondable will cause it to adhere to your fabric. So in this case, undyed wool being dyed with the angelina inside can cause the heat activation, and then you'd have a really, really hard time trying to spin something that's been adhered together. So be careful about what you use in the processing steps before you're dyeing. Okay, so all that's great, but how does it actually look? Well, this isn't the best example because I don't do this as often because I usually have other methods that I prefer, but you can kind of see in this example here, particularly in these little spots, what I did was I initially dyed this all kind of like a watermelon color and carded it. Didn't really like it, so I wanted to add in something a little bit more interesting, so I laid it out, overdyed it with this kind of fuchsia hot pink color just to get a little bit more interest in it. And as you can see, because I haven't handled it too roughly during the dyeing process, it actually pulls apart very, very easily. So you don't have to worry about having to card it again when it's all done. Just make sure that before you do this, please make sure that you card it as much as you want it to be prior to dyeing, because afterwards you'll ruin everything if you have to card it again, or if you wanted to make any kind of alterations to the color. It's not the end of the world. I mean, honestly, this is what we're talking about, so not a big deal. But please be mindful of this, because if you go to pull it apart and it's, you know, covered in noils, or there's knots, or there's something about it that's really annoying about how you're spinning it, then it's going to be perpetuated throughout the entire project. So I hope you liked this video. I didn't want to go too much into details about the technical how-to because I didn't know if that would really be something feasible to do, or if me just telling you that yes, it's possible and not be afraid, because sometimes that's all we need is someone to tell us to go out and do it. But if you feel like you do need a tutorial to see kind of the process, like how it operates, let me know and I will work very hard to get that available to you. Again, sorry everything is taking so long for the channel because over to my left here there is a giant loom. I have to stand on a chair to get to the very top because I'm doing some experimental archaeology with my research project, kind of fueling the research leading into it. So it's totally a side project, and because it constitutes spare time, I have to take what spare time I do have and divide it into thousands of little pieces to make sure I get everything done that I want to get done. So sometimes it means that I'm only working a little bit on this and a little bit on that until it eventually gets done. So I had been putting off this video for too long and decided I'm just going to do it because it won't take that long. And I had already done some of the prep steps without realizing, and then I got several different people ask me the same question. So clearly this was of great import to many of you, so I thought I'd take the cue from you and do this video. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to see daily updates or near daily updates about what I'm doing in terms of my experiments, the stuff that I'm doing for Expertly Dyed, the stuff that I'm doing for me, you can follow me on Instagram, Expertly Dyed. I also post some things to Twitter that's kind of a mixture of textile stuff and archaeology, which I am studying to be an archaeologist. So if that is of relevance to you, please follow me there. And as always, thank you for watching. Bye!